High in the mountains, there lived an old monk the villagers could never quite understand. Winter came, and he did not fall ill. The cold winds swept through the stone paths, children coughed through the night, elders wrapped themselves in blankets, and still the monk walked at dawn as if the frost could not touch him. Summer brought heat, exhaustion, and fever to many, yet his body remained light, his mind clear, his breath steady. Years passed, seasons changed, faces aged, but the monk, though old in years, moved with a quiet strength that seemed untouched by sickness. People began to whisper about him. Some said he had been blessed, some said he knew secret prayers, others believed he possessed a medicine no one else could find. But every morning, before the sun had fully risen, the monk did the same simple thing. He sat beside a small wooden table near the window of his temple, poured warm water into a plain clay cup, added a few spices with careful hands, and drank slowly in complete silence. One morning, a young traveler climbed the mountain to see him. The young man looked tired. His eyes were heavy, his skin dull, his body burdened by the kind of exhaustion that sleep alone cannot fix. He bowed to the monk and asked the question so many had wanted to ask. "Master, what is the secret to long life? What is the secret to never getting sick?" The monk did not answer right away. He lifted the cup to his lips, took one slow sip, and let the silence settle between them like mist over the stones. Then he said, "Most people begin caring for the body only after pain arrives. By then, the fire has already spread." The young traveler frowned. "Then when does healing begin?" The monk looked into his cup and smiled. "Healing begins in the quiet moments, in what you do before the body cries for help." That answer stayed in the air, because deep down, we all live the opposite way. We ignore the small signs. We push through fatigue. We eat without thinking. We wake up rushed, stressed, inflamed, and disconnected from the body that carries us through life. We wait until digestion weakens, until the immune system falters, until the mind grows foggy and the body becomes heavy. Only then do we search for a cure. But the monk understood something most people forget. The greatest medicine is often not the one you take after getting sick. It is the one you take before. And inside that cup was no miracle from a distant land, no expensive tonic, no rare ingredient hidden from the world, just morning water and 5 ancient spices from nature, each one chosen with purpose, each one working quietly beneath the surface, each one helping the body defend, cleanse, warm, and restore itself before illness had the chance to enter. So simple that most people would overlook it. So powerful that, practiced daily, it could change the way a body feels from the inside out. The monk drank not just to fill himself, but to prepare himself, to strengthen the body before weakness, to calm the system before stress, to offer respect to life before the noise of the day began. And in that humble morning cup, the secret was already waiting. The young traveler sat beside the monk and watched as the old man placed 5 small ingredients onto the wooden table. They looked ordinary: a pinch of golden powder, a slice of root, a fragment of bark, a few dark seeds, several pale green pods. Nothing about them suggested power. Nothing about them looked like the answer to pain, fatigue, or disease. Yet the monk touched each one with the same care a gardener gives to seeds before planting. "The world hides its greatest medicine in simple forms," he said. He lifted the golden powder first, turmeric. The color glowed like morning sunlight. For centuries, healers had used it to calm the fires burning unseen within the body. Inflammation is silent. It grows quietly in tired joints, swollen tissues, aching muscles, and overworked organs. Many people do not notice it until years later when the damage has already spoken. Turmeric enters softly but works deeply, helping cool that hidden flame. It is not loud medicine. It is patient medicine. Next, he held up the root, ginger. Fresh, sharp, alive with heat. Ginger wakes up what has become sluggish. It stirs digestion, helps the stomach do its work, and moves heaviness out of the system. But it does more than that. It strengthens the body's natural defenses, building resistance from within. Where coldness settles, ginger brings warmth. Where stagnation gathers, ginger creates motion. Then came a small piece of bark, cinnamon. Its fragrance filled the room before it touched the water. Cinnamon has long been valued for its ability to steady the body's inner rhythms. Blood sugar rises and crashes, energy follows, mood follows, hunger follows. Many people live on that invisible roller coaster every day. Cinnamon helps restore balance, smoothing the sharp swings and warming the body from the inside. Gentle, comforting, steady. The monk then placed several black seeds into his palm. Black pepper. The traveler looked surprised. Such a common spice seemed out of place among the others. The monk smiled. The most common key may open the most important door. Black pepper does more than add heat. It helps the body absorb the gifts of the other spices, especially turmeric. Without it, some benefits remain locked away. With it, the body receives more fully. A tiny ingredient with a mighty purpose. Finally, he opened the green pods and released their sweet scent. Cardamom. The room changed with its aroma. Light, calm, clean. Cardamom works quietly. It supports detoxification, eases bloating, freshens the breath, and relaxes the nervous system. In a world where stress hardens the body from within, cardamom reminds it to soften, to exhale, to release what it no longer needs. The monk looked at the 5 spices resting on the table. Each one has a gift, but together they become harmony. Turmeric cools, ginger awakens, cinnamon balances, black pepper unlocks, cardamom calms. No single spice needs to carry the whole burden. Nature teaches teamwork better than we do. The traveler stared at the humble ingredients with new eyes. They were no longer kitchen spices. They were protectors hidden in plain sight. The monk reached for his cup. "Knowing the gifts is only the beginning," he said softly. "Now you must learn how to prepare them." The monk set the empty clay cup between them and poured fresh water into a small kettle. "This is where most people fail," he said. "They search for powerful ingredients, but forget that power also lives in the way something is prepared." The young traveler leaned closer. Outside, the first birds had begun to sing. Morning light slipped through the temple window, touching the table where the 5 spices waited. The monk moved slowly, without wasted motion, as if each step mattered. "It does," he said, noticing the traveler's eyes. "When you begin the day carelessly, the body feels it. When you begin with intention, the body feels that too." The water warmed over the flame, not boiling, not violent, just hot enough to release what was hidden inside the spices. "Too much heat can destroy what gentleness would awaken," the monk said. He took the cup and began. First, he added half a teaspoon of turmeric, then 3 thin slices of fresh ginger. Next came a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, then a small pinch of black pepper. Finally, he crushed 2 cardamom pods with the back of a spoon and dropped the seeds into the cup. The fragrance rose instantly, golden, earthy, warm, bright. He poured the hot water over everything and let it rest. "How long?" the traveler asked. 3 minutes, said the monk. Long enough for the water to listen. They waited in silence. Steam curled upward like incense. The traveler could smell the ginger first, then the sweetness of cinnamon, then something cool and delicate from the cardamom. It did not smell like medicine. It smelled like morning itself. After 3 minutes, the monk stirred the cup once. "If the body asks for softness," he said, "add a teaspoon of raw honey after the water cools slightly." He placed half a slice of lemon beside the cup. If the body feels heavy, a little lemon can brighten the system. Then his face became more serious. "But not everything belongs together." He raised one finger. "Do not mix it with cold milk. Cold weakens the warming nature of the drink." A second finger. "Do not drown it in sugar. Sweetness that excites the tongue may burden the body." A third finger. "Do not drink it after a heavy meal. Let it greet an empty morning." The traveler nodded carefully. "So when should it be taken?" The monk handed him the warm cup. "Before your first bite, before the noise, before the world enters you." The traveler wrapped his hands around the clay. Heat moved into his palms. He took a cautious sip. First came warmth, then brightness, then a deep comfort spreading through his chest and stomach. His body, tired only moments ago, seemed to awaken from some hidden sleep. It was not dramatic, not a lightning strike, not a miracle in an instant. It was quieter than that, a feeling of alignment, a feeling of being helped, a feeling the body recognizes before the mind can explain. The monk watched him drink. "Health rarely arrives with fireworks," he said. "Most healing enters like dawn." The traveler finished the cup slowly, and for the first time in many months, morning felt like a beginning instead of a burden. The warmth of the drink settled gently inside the traveler. Outside, the mountain air was still cold, yet something within him had begun to soften. He looked at the monk and asked, Can a simple cup of water truly change a life? The monk smiled. A cup alone? No, but the mind that holds the cup, that changes everything. He motioned for the traveler to follow him into the temple garden. Dew rested on the stones. Wind moved through the bamboo with a sound so soft it felt like breathing. They sat beneath an old tree as the morning sun rose higher. In the teachings of the wise, the monk said, the body is not an object to be ignored. It is a temple. It carries your thoughts, your breath, your steps, your kindness, your work, your entire journey through this world. He placed a hand over his heart. What you place into the body is never just food or drink. It is a message. It is an offering. It is a prayer. The traveler lowered his eyes. He thought of rushed mornings, careless meals, eating while anxious, drinking while distracted, living as if the body were a machine that should obey without care. The monk continued, when people hate their bodies, they punish them. When people forget their bodies, they neglect them. But when people respect their bodies, they nourish them. They sat in silence for a while. Then the traveler remembered an old story he had once heard and asked, Master, is it true that someone once asked a Zen teacher the secret to long life? The monk laughed softly. Yes. And what did the teacher say? He said nothing. The traveler looked confused. The monk lifted an imaginary cup to his lips. He simply pointed to his cup. The traveler was quiet. At first, the answer seemed too small, but slowly it unfolded. Long life was not hidden in grand speeches, not locked inside distant mountains, not found only in rare medicines. It lived in daily habits, in simple rituals repeated with awareness, in what a person chose each morning before the world became loud. The monk looked toward the sunrise. Mindful drinking is one of the simplest forms of meditation. He spoke slowly, as if each word were a stone placed carefully in water. When you hold the cup, just hold the cup. When you smell the spices, just smell them. When you sip, just sip. When warmth enters the body, notice it. When gratitude appears, welcome it. No phone, no rushing, no thinking of 10,000 things. Just one cup, one breath, one moment fully lived. The traveler closed his eyes and remembered the taste of ginger, the warmth of cinnamon, the brightness of lemon, the calm that followed. For those few minutes, he had wanted nothing else. He had been nowhere else. Peace had entered not because the world changed, but because he had finally arrived in the moment. The monk rose slowly. If you drink with intention, you heal with intention. He began walking back toward the temple. The spices help the body. Presence helps the soul. Together, they create a life that sickness struggles to enter. The traveler stood and followed, feeling lighter with every step, as though the path beneath him had changed. But it was not the path. It was the one walking on it. The next morning, before the sky had fully brightened, the traveler woke to the sound of water being poured. He stepped outside and saw the monk already seated at the wooden table. The same clay cup, the same quiet hands, the same rising steam. But this time, the monk did not prepare 2 cups. He simply pointed to the spices. The traveler understood. With slow movements, he began. Half a teaspoon of turmeric, fresh slices of ginger, a little cinnamon, a pinch of black pepper, crushed cardamom, hot water, silence. Nothing about the act seemed extraordinary, and yet it felt more important than many grand things he had done in life. Because for once, he was not reacting to pain. He was preventing it. He was not waiting for the body to break. He was strengthening it while it was still whole. He was not asking for rescue. He was practicing respect. He lifted the cup and drank as dawn spread over the mountains. The warmth moved through him again, but now he noticed more. His breath slowed. His mind cleared. The heaviness he had carried for so long no longer felt permanent. It felt removable, changeable, temporary. The monk looked at him and said, most suffering does not leave in one dramatic moment. It leaves quietly after many faithful mornings. The traveler never forgot those words. When he returned to the city, life was still busy. The noise was still loud. Problems did not disappear. Stress still knocked at the door. But each morning before the world could claim him, he returned to the cup. Days passed, then weeks. He noticed small things first. Less bloating, more steady energy, clearer thinking, warmer digestion, fewer cravings, better mood, a body that felt less burdened, a mind that felt less restless. Nothing flashy, nothing to brag about, just quiet improvements stacking like sunrise after sunrise. 30 days later, he smiled while holding the cup. The monk had been right. The body often thanks you in whispers long before it ever needs to scream. So if you choose to begin tomorrow, begin simply. Wake up, boil the water, add the 5 gifts from nature, drink slowly, breathe deeply, listen inward, and notice what quietly disappears. Maybe the fatigue, maybe the heaviness, maybe the fog in your mind, maybe the habits that were slowly harming you. Remember this truth. The greatest medicine is not always the one you take after getting sick. It is the one you welcome before sickness arrives. Your next morning is waiting. Your cup is waiting. And perhaps so is a new version of your life.